One of the most important things in archery that you are taught or you figure out very quickly is the importance of an anchor point. That is a reference point somewhere on your face which you draw to and get consistent every single time. There's a lot of variation over exactly where people anchor, and as long as it's consistent, then it's fine. There is, however, one anchor point which I personally dislike. It's this one. But wait, you might say, that's what the Olympians use. And as someone who trains in and coaches Olympic recurve, I'm well aware of that. But as you can see, I'm not shooting Olympic recurve. Now, as someone who coaches at a club, I want to share an anecdote about a recent new member. And there are always people like this no matter where you go. And this is about someone who just started archery and is being guided in how to shoot. So on his first day, he was given a club bow, not this one of course, but an actual club bow. And as with many people, he was taught to shoot split finger, anchoring at around the cheek or the mouth, corner of the mouth. That's what we always taught. So he would normally shoot like this, the split finger, 1 over, 2 under, and then he would draw to the corner of his mouth, and he would shoot. So come week 2 and week 3, he starts shooting like this. Now, the horizontal spread is almost non-existent. He had always had good back tension, always came down this line. I was very happy with his form. But why does this grouping exist? This vertical spread is insanely large, especially at 10 meters. So what happened? What happened was that a different instructor taught him the Olympic chin anchor point. So from the second week onwards, he started to shoot like this. Like the Olympic shooters, draw low, anchor to chin, align, and then shoot. But why don't I like it? That vertical spread and this chin anchor are directly connected. The problem is not so much where the anchor is. The problem is what your reference point is. What are you using to align your arrow onto the target? Now, since I'm not using a sight with my traditional barebow, the only reference point is the point of the arrow. Now, by simple biomechanics, it's easy for me to align the tip of the arrow right in the middle of the gold. Now, I'm shooting 5 meters away, could be 10 meters, more or less same difference. But at this distance, I know that if I go 3 fingers beneath the knock, so that's 3 under plus 3 more, so I'm string walking, I touch my anchor point on my corner mouth, align with the gold, it is dead center. And I know that for a fact. So I'll instinctively follow the arrow, put it on the gold, 3 under, in the gold, and hits gold. And I know every single time, as long as I have 3 fingers under, walk 3 down, corner of mouth, right in the gold, it's going to hit gold. It's the most natural way to align. It is to put the point of the arrow in the gold. Now, that said, not everyone should string walking. Right? Not everybody can do it well because it is a little off balance or off centered. So if we go the more common 3 under, just touch the knock with the fingers, I can still align, but if I go right in the gold, it's going to be slightly higher. I'll do it again. If I go right in the gold, if I point the tip right in the gold, it's going to be high. So that means I have to aim down. While it is closer to the eye, it isn't at the eye. I'm going to aim below the gold in order to hit gold. So I'll do the same thing. I'm going to go 3 fingers under, touch the knock, aim in the red, and that'll hit where the gold is. Now, if you go split finger, the gap becomes wider. Right? So split finger, I'm going to put the arrow in the gold, and it goes up there. probably a very common experience for many people. And remember, I didn't change my anchor point. My anchor point is still the same. Call in the mouth, touching my cheekbone. But because I changed where I held my fingers on the string, it's going to change the elevation or the angle of the arrow. So because when I pointed it at gold, it went up towards the top blue, I have to compensate. So now, knowing that, when I'm using split finger, corner of the mouth, I'm going to aim the arrow tip at the bottom blue instead. Let's do that. Bottom blue, still a little high, so I'm going to go towards the black. So, tension up, let's go to the white, that's the gold. Do the same thing. Tension up, arrow tip on the white bottom. There we go. That's 2 in the gold, 1 high. So the one in the blue was high. I had to put my arrow tip on the white to hit the gold. What I'm trying to illustrate here is the further the gap between your eye and the arrow, the more you have to aim off. And that leads me to the chin anchor, the greatly celebrated Olympic anchor, which often gets taught or referred to because Olympians use it. That's under the chin. If I do split finger, under the chin, nose on the string, and point at gold, I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit the top of the cardboard. I'm not sure if it's safe, so I'm not going to do it. In fact, I know it's not safe, so I'm going to draw to my chin anchor and put the arrow point at the bottom of the white like I did with my split finger at the cheek. Now, the bottom of the white with split finger hits gold. If I go bottom of the white with the chin anchor, it hits blue. Look how much of a gap that created. That's going from here to down here. It's only that much. But even 5 meters away, it's giving me like a whole 2-color band off. Imagine this was 10 meters or 20 meters or further. That's the gap that increases as you lower your anchor point. And that shouldn't be a problem. As long as you know what your reference point is, you should still shoot consistently. So because I was pointing at the white, I can now point at the steel bar on the bottom. So let's go to chin anchor, steel bar at the bottom, and it's gold. All right, first guess, because we know the distance, okay? Let's do the same thing. Under the chin, steel bar, gold. Wasn't even good shooting, but the same level, okay? But here's the new problem. You can't even see my reference point. I'm gonna put the camera down here. There's a steel bar right there, right by the target. So my arrow point is literally pointing down at the frame, at the bottom of the target to hit the middle. And again, if this was 10 meters away or 20 meters away, I'd be aiming somewhere at the ground down here. It might be a bit of grass or something at the very bottom. If you're shooting at 18 meters indoor or 25 meters indoor, it'd be like a bottom piece of foam or something, or padding. So you're aiming so far off target that you have to guess where it is in order to hit the middle. And that's the problem with using a chin anchor with a trap bow like this. I'm fortunate that in this shed, I have something to look at. But if I didn't have that, I'd have to guess. Let's try it again. Under the chin, point at steel, and it's down there. Let's try it again. Chin anchor, point at steel, same spot there. All right, it's a little low, we'll walk it up. Chin anchor, point at wood, and it's there. Okay, it's a little high. Let's point down now. Chin anchor, point at the wooden planks, and it's gold. So it took me a few shots to kind of zero in where it should be. I had one bad shot, but the rest are mostly in line. Same back tension, us rushing it, but whatever. Point being is that I had to kind of figure out my zero. So where is my arrow exactly? It's somewhere at the steel plate or the wooden plank or somewhere in between. And again, outside, it's going to be this bit of grass or this bit of grass. Which one is it? And this is the reason why the chin anchor, it's not very conducive to accurate shooting. When you're not using a sight and you rely on the point of the arrow as your guideline, as your reference point, the further the arrow is away from the center, the less intuitive it is. That means there's more guesswork and more variation. If you put the arrow right in the middle, it's going to hit the middle. If you have to aim off, then you're introducing variables which you can't know for sure. You might pick a different spot. You go, okay, if I'm shooting 3 fingers under, it'll be in the blue or in the red. If I'm shooting split finger with my cheek, it'll be somewhere in the black. At least you have a reference point on target. But with the chin anchor, my reference point isn't even on the target. It's so far below it, I'm not even looking at my target. My eyes are focused not on the gold, but on the ground. That's a very unintuitive way of doing archery. This doesn't mean, by the way, that you have to anchor with the arrow straight down your eye. That's useful for very close distance shooting. That's the reason why we see the 80-meter indoor barebow shoots. They do string walk and the arrow's right on their eye, because at 18 meters, the arrow is pretty much going to fly straight. Once it starts to arc at say 20 or 30 meters, you start having to compensate for that drop. And in which case, maybe a split finger at 30 or 35 or 40 meters will actually be on the gold, which actually means that those distances might be easier than shooting a close distance, because close distance means you aim off, whereas at mid distance, you aim right in the middle. So that's a bit of a paradox there, but it can be easier to shoot split finger at 35 to 40 meters than split finger at 18 meters. So how do Olympic archers get away with it? They're using sights. That means they don't need to pay any attention to the arrow point. The arrow can be wherever it wants. I can shoot 5 or 18 meters. My tip of the arrow is pointing at the bottom of the target. But because I'm using a sight as a reference point, I simply align the sight on the gold. The arrow I ignore. I put the sight on target. I'll adjust the sight for elevation as I need to, which means I can always hit gold no matter the distance. That's why the chin anchor works favorably for Olympic recurve. It's worth noting, however, that the chin anchor didn't originate with sights. It was used long before sights were a thing. When you look at the archive footage of the early world championships, like 1930s or 40s, you will see that the competitive target archers were shooting bare bow, because there were no sights back then. Shooting bare bow, were shooting in a fairly hunched posture, but with a low anchor point. The reason being is that they're shooting at 70 or 90 meters. And when you're shooting with a high anchor, you don't have much space for elevation. So instead of having to point the bow here, they go up there somewhere, they'll simply go lower at the jaw and point upwards. And they can use the tip of the arrow at the longer distance. So while here, I can't put the arrow on the target with a chin anchor, at 70 meters, I can. It's probably nearly point on with the chin anchor. So that's very conducive to pinpoint shooting if you can put the tip of the arrow on target. So the original competitive target shooters who shot the modern format with the bare bows would have adopted this low anchor point for long distance shooting. That low anchor point translated over to modern recurve, where you need the same angle for the same kind of bow, but now you have a sight as a reference point. So it's much more consistent with the sight, but that high angle was always desirable for long distance target shooting. Most trad shooters, however, are not doing 70 or 90 meters. You're probably shooting 10, 20, 30, probably no more than 50 meters, in which case having the split finger or 3 under grips and anchor points will be better for direct shooting. So with that said, the question is, which anchor point should I use? My answer is use the one that is most appropriate to what you are doing. If you're going to be shooting trad bow, close distance, maybe hunting, no more than 30 meters, depending on your confidence in your skill, then you probably be using something like 3 under and pull into your cheek, or split finger, pull into your cheek. I don't see a reason why you would put yourself through the pain and the vagueness of a chin anchor if you're only shooting like 10, 20, 30 meters. That's just introducing a very large variable for a distance you should hit instinctively. And in fact, many people who shoot instinctively without really paying attention will automatically hit goals at 10 meters. Whereas when they try to aim with the arrow, they start shooting worse because the arrow is so far off, it's unintuitive. And that leads me to perhaps the hot take for this video. And that is, what do we teach people? Question is, do we go for a high anchor or a chin anchor? And I think for this, while there are debates for the other one, sight, no sight, split or 3 under, there shouldn't be any debate. I honestly think that the chin anchor should not be taught for beginners shooting barebow. The reason why it comes down to a couple of reasons. Number one is that the instructors may be using Olympians as the reference point for good form, so they're teaching you the Olympic form for a non-Olympic style bow. The second reason may be that they are preparing you for Olympic recurve. If they think or you plan to shoot Olympic recurve with sight at some point, they might have the mindset, or you might have the mindset where, you know what, I should get used to it because I'm going to be doing it for my main technique. Here's the thing, form is flexible, form is fluid. You shoot the form that is most appropriate to your equipment and your purpose. So if you're going to shoot Olympic recurve later on, then learn the chin anchor later on. The chin anchor isn't so different that you have to spend a month learning it compared to shooting a high anchor point. Look, I can shoot this and anchor fine. I can go 3 under and anchor the same way. There's no real difference here. I can go chin as well. Okay, these are fluid anchor points. I just choose which one I use. I don't have to train to use a particular anchor point. Just choose one and do it. So why choose a chin anchor when you don't have to use it? Again, like I said, you have to aim off a lot more with a chin anchor, so you only make it harder for yourself. Not to mention that it's the wrong bow. The length is different, the size is different, the feeling is different. So while I can in fact get the chin anchor and shoot consistently enough at this distance, the fact is I'm not using stabilizers, I'm not using a sight, I'm not using a clicker. So I'm going to have to relearn and refine my technique and form with my actual bow when I get it. So I don't think you should be using the Olympic recurve chin anchor in preparation for Olympic recurve if you are not currently using an Olympic recurve. If you are using one, then do it, use it. But if you're not using one, you're shooting a club bow or a trad bow, then adjust your form to suit the bow you're using. So I think it is a bit of negative training, counterintuitive, and quite stressful when you introduce a style, like an anchor point, which doesn't match what you are doing. I was concerned about our new member that I shared before, because he went from shooting very consistently, all golds, to having this big vertical spread. And it wasn't because he was bad. He thought it was him. He thought that it was his form or his lack of practice that caused him to drift up and down. That wasn't the cause. The cause was we changed his reference point to be something he couldn't see. And that's why he had this drift. As soon as I taught him to string walk again, he started drilling the golds once more. He never wanted to shoot Olympic recurve. He wanted to shoot modern barebow. So we taught him the right technique, the right anchor points, the right aiming method, and he's been enjoying himself ever since. What are your thoughts? Post your comments below. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.